how this issue of immigration has been politicized?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your question. Yeah, I think there's a few things that can be said, and then first of all, the thing is that what we have noticed is that recently more political movements and some political parties have used the issue of immigration as a very contentious issues, and they have certainly politicized it. Something that wasn't it didn't happen in same way in the past. We didn't have that in during previous elections. So I think this is probably part of a sort of global trend. We've seen this happening also in other parts of the world, North America, Europe, for example, where some of the political forces have been scapegoating migrants.
Yes. Now, when one looks at some of the issues that have been cited in this piece that I have got in front of me, talking about politicians driven by opportunism, economic
Mm,
elites, and politicians who have begun scapegoating immigrants to generate support. And you speak about things like the election manifestos, and
mm,
also citing examples, for instance, the former Johannesburg Mayor, Herman
yeah.
Mashaba, heads of South African First Movement, the African Transformation Movement, accusing foreign nationals of violating immigration laws and stealing jobs from locals.
Mm. Yeah, I think the important issues is about the policies responses, which to me are completely flooded, and they're not based on evidence, but rather they are based more on pressure from the public, and of course, public wants more security, for instance, more jobs for nationals, or from certain groups, elites, business associations, and interest groups. So one of the things that I did mention in that piece is that it would be necessary actually to look more at what the the research and the data tells us about foreign nationals and the labor market, in particular the informal sectors. And here there are a series of myths and assumptions that are wrong, and often policies are based on the same myths and assumptions. And just to cite a few, for example, one is about the number of foreigners in South Africa. Another myth is about foreign nationals stealing jobs from South Africa, or the fact that foreign nationals are flooding or dominating the informal sector. And if we look at research, and if we look at evidence, this is clearly not the case. So I think what is important is to make sure that policies, and particular migration policies, are grounded in evidence-based research rather than on myths and assumptions, which are simply not true.
Yes. Now, also, I think what is absolutely important to understand, and you've cited some of these examples in this research, where we talk about the ANC, the peace and stability discussion
Yeah,
in 2012 about non-South Africans should not be allowed to buy or run spaza shops or
yeah.
larger businesses. Then there's obviously since October 2020, where we see Limpopo, the provincial government targeting Zimbabwean migrants, informal traders, and also going back to 2019, where we
Hmm.
spoke, speaking about the small business minister revealing a plan for legislation to bar foreign nationals from certain sectors. Now, all of this put together, and we also see it most recently with all these truck attacks
Yeah.
on trucks on highways where foreign nationals have been targeted.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I just want to emphasize that these issues has been there for, I would say, at least 15, 20 years. And since the transition to democracy, when, of course, the country started open up to Africans, and particularly refugees from the Great Lakes, East Africa, Somalia, the DRC, and Burundi, one of the main concerns for politicians has always been this sort of unfair competition and the fact that foreign nationals are seen as a threat for locals. So this is not new. And then we've seen that since 2012 and that ANC policy document. And since then, government has tried to enforce and implement a sort of legislation which is very disabling in terms of ensuring that foreign nationals and refugees have the right to livelihood, which in fact they have. We also need to understand that for many foreign nationals or refugees, the informal sectors is the only sector that they can access. And this is because the cost to enter the sector is lower compared to other sectors, but also because for them it's very difficult to secure documentation, and therefore they cannot access the formal sector. And this is in many cases not the fault of migrants or refugees, but it also has to do with bureaucracy, with inefficiencies and corruption, with, for instance, the Department of Home Affairs. So many foreign nationals, they are in many instances forced to enter the informal sector because that's the only way they have to secure their livelihood. And on top of that, we need to remember that South Africa does not have refugee camps. So refugees are allowed to come in, and if they are genuine refugees, they can receive a documentation. Up to now, they have a right to work in the country, but they do not receive any material assistance from government in terms of housing, food. So they need to secure that. And the easiest way for them is to enter the informal market, also because the majority of them come from countries where the informal market is very large and widespread.
Sergio, what about the assumption about foreign nationals, particularly when it comes to issues of compliance? Because this is absolutely critical in terms of how they conduct their businesses in the country, looking at forming monopolies, evading taxes, avoiding customs, and we know there have been these accusations of illegal expired goods being sold. Now, how does one actually look at these business practices?
Well, I think it's very important to look at all these issues of compliance. Of course, the refugees and asylum seekers, they need to have all the documents in order. They need to have all the trading permits and all the licenses that are required to conduct their business. This is, of course, out of discussion. But what we notice is that often there is a prejudice in general against the informal sector, and also, for example, against cross-border trading. There's a lot of foreigners coming from neighboring countries just to buy goods in South Africa, bring them back, or sell goods in South Africa. So these are not permanent migrants. They just cross-border. They come here maybe for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they go back. So there is this sort of assumptions that are evading tax and that don't have the right permit, and of course all the checks has to be done. But what we see is that that's often not the case, and that is often used as a sort of excuse just to shut down the businesses and to punish them unfairly.
Well, Sergio, thank you very much for that. And it's going to be interesting to see how these issues play up in the build-up to the local elections next year. But for now, we thank you for your time, and please take care.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you.
Massive explosions have rocked Lebanon. Homes destroyed, hundreds of people missing, and many more have passed on. Over 300,000 people have also been displaced.
Africa.
The African Muslims Agency teams are on the ground, assisting with food, water, and medical supplies. Also supplying emergency medical equipment to 3 hospitals in Beirut. Donate now to an emergency aid pack at 2,000 rands or any amount. Your participation is required. Heal Lebanon. Call AMA now on 011-834-8685 or donate at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
Enduran Boys College is an independent boarding and day school situated on the N1 highway in Polokwane. We encourage intellectual and emotional development through a holistic learning environment. We follow the NCS CAPS curriculum and house boys from grade 6 to 12. We have boarding facilities also available from grade 6 to 12. Enduran Colleges aspires towards being a premier institution of learning by offering quality and value-based education that aims to serve humanity. Enduran College is safe haven and a home away from home. It's registered with the Department of Education and Umalusi accredited. For more information, contact us on 078-452-6264 or follow us on Facebook or Instagram or email us on polokwane@endurancolleges.co.za.
Fabric Direct, now open at 224 Brickfield Road, Overport, Durban, offering you a variety of dress fabrics, curtaining, upholstery, wallpaper, and deco. Fabric Direct, quality, price, and a range that speaks for itself. 224 Brickfield Road, Overport, Durban. Fabric Direct, definitely worth a visit.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Forgive me for everything I've done in the past, when everything was going so fast, and now I just can't go on. Forgive me for everything I've done in the light, for everything I've done in the night that I thought wasn't wrong. But I know that you are really loving, you are really caring. I can't realize, but you know that I will be better, that I will be stronger if you are by my side. Forgive me for everything that's wrong in my life, and everything that wasn't right. Going through life like a fool. Forgive me before the day comes when I die. I opened up my eyes, now I'm trying to find. 'Cause I've walked away, came back for you. Don't take me away, I'll run to you, and I will never let you go. You're the one that makes me smile, and you know Try to never hurt somebody. Try to never judge someone. Life will end and we'll be standing in front of the perfect one. Forgive me for everything that's wrong in my life and everything that wasn't right. Going through life like a fool. Forgive me before the day comes when I die. I open up my eyes, now I'm trying to find. 'Cause I've walked away, came back for you. Don't take me away, I'll run to you, and I will never let you go. You're the one that makes me smile, and you know
The time is just gone 9:52 a.m. And it's time now to go across to be joined by the General Director of Friends of Mizan. Now, the Friends of Mizan South African chapter was launched on the 4th of December. And this is a Palestine-based legal and human rights organization committed to defending the human rights of Palestinian people. Abdullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome. Abdullah, I think you're on mute. If you could unmute your button, please. I think he's on mute at this point in time. Abdullah, assalamu alaikum.
Assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome and Jazakallah khairan so much for joining us. Now, let's talk about Friends of Mizan.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, let's talk about Friends of Mizan. I can hear you clearly, yes. Let's talk about Friends of Mizan, and we know you've had the launch on the 4th of December, looking at South Africa, and just to understand as to why the launch in South Africa and the South African chapter, please.
As to why South Africa? Well, are you back?
I can hear you.
Nayat, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, if I got the question correct, you asked for why we chose South Africa. Please correct me if I didn't get the question because the line was cut. But to answer that question is because there is a lot of lessons that we can take from South Africa, from the South African history, the experience, the anti-apartheid struggle, the transition period, the democratization that happened in South Africa. There is, the 4 pillars of the anti-apartheid struggle, for example, the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Committee, with its, positives and negatives. We need to learn about this stuff. What worked for South Africa, what didn't work. Even the post-1994 challenges that you are facing today, how can we learn from these experiences? I always like to say that for my thesis, when I was at UCT, I wrote the first sentence on my thesis was that our present, as Palestinian present, is South Africa's past, but we aspire for a better future than South Africa's present.
Yes. Now, I see, obviously, there are 2 key areas that Mizan focuses on, one being legal, the other being human rights. And I'm just looking at the invitation to your launch, and to the extent that obviously you have got a lot of legal people that are obviously heading the organization, and also looking at South Africa, where the national chairperson, friend of Mizan, is our very own Judge Siraj Desai.
Yes, that's a big privilege for us. That when the first time when we mentioned to Judge Desai, he was so happy, to the extent that he said, like, I'm fully with you, and I'm happy to be with you all the time, all the way, and until we liberate Palestine. And then he said that he would like to be part of Mizan. How can he become, more active into the, with the organization? And as you mentioned, actually all the members of Mizan back home, they're all lawyers. They are all advocates. They all stand in. They have the ability to stand in the courts and defend the Palestinians throughout, whatever trial they have to stand in. Our lawyers are well trained. They all speak, like, they are very fluent in Hebrew. They speak even better Hebrew than the Israelis themselves, because they have to be, for us, the same way like here in South Africa have, where, like, in order for you, unfortunately, to be like counted as equal to the other side, you have to be 10 times better than the other side. So our people, their Hebrew and all is 100 times better than the Israeli side. And alhamdulillah, this allows us to win lots of cases in Palestine, in Israeli courts, and we have been achieving lots of, like, really good and alhamdulillah, like, really good achievements in the courts.
Now, looking at the South African chapter of Mizan, what are some of the key focus areas going to be?
Looking at the South African chapter, as Friends of Mizan, well, we want to come here to, one of the main things, one of our main objectives is to look at, is for educational purposes. We want to train our, young activists, our lawyers, our researchers. Now, we want to start a new chapter where we go to the international community, because you as South African will understand the role of international pressure, international solidarity for freedom. And that had a wide impact on the collapse of the apartheid regime. So now we as Mizan, we are establishing Friends of Mizan in South Africa, and we thought that the first chapter outside of Palestine should be in South Africa because of this big and deep connection between Palestinians and South Africans, because of the lessons that we can learn from the South African experience. We thought that starting Friends of Mizan in South Africa would be a perfect start for us. And inshallah, we look forward to cooperation and to learning experience, inshallah, from the South African audience and the South African public in general, inshallah.
Well, inshallah. And we know there are a number of organizations that support the Palestinian cause in South Africa. We've got the BDS movement, we've got Palestinian Solidarity Alliance, and a number of other organizations. Are you going to be working closely with some of these organizations?
So there are certain organizations obviously that we can work with, and we are proud to work with every organization that is we have, because we are located inside of Israel and we work in Israeli courts, we challenge them using their own laws. There are certain organizations that we cannot in public or in private work with them, like, because you mentioned specifically the BDS movement, that if we sign any papers that has the BDS name on it, we'll be immediately banned. And strategically, that's not wise for us, to be banned, because then we will not be able to represent our, people who need us to be working on a legal basis and to for the freedom of our political prisoners, our the families of our martyrs who want to go to courts. And we have been achieving lots of things, like for example, the Wabcha family, the family that was burned, the father, the mother, and the small baby who were burned and died in a fire that was made by Israeli settlers, and a small boy, Ahmed the Wabcha, he survived. We wouldn't have been able to represent that family, and alhamdulillah, we managed to convict one of the settlers with 3 life. We defended the family, and we got one of the settlers behind bars, and he received 3 life sentences. And we wouldn't have been able to achieve that if we were, working with organizations that are regarded as illegal by Israel. It's important for us to highlight that certain organizations have their own role. We have a different role, which is the legal and the human. We have been doing, alhamdulillah, and we are. So we will be working with lots of South African organizations, but it's just that we need to be strategic and we need to be careful because of the critical place where we are found, and which is specifically inside of Israel. That's the 1948 occupied Palestinian lands. So basically, yes, inshallah, we are looking forward to work with everyone. But again, and we don't mean to offend anyone. We have to be careful. That's all we're saying.
Well, that is totally understandable from what you've described, and obviously one needs to be strategic.
I hope it makes sense.
Yes, it certainly does make a lot of sense. But Abdullah, Jazakallah khairan so much for that and for your time with us this morning on Salam Media. We wish you all the best. I'm sure we will be having a lot more engagements from a media perspective with the South African chapter of Mizan, inshallah.
Jazakallah, barakallah fiqh, and thank you so much for having us here.
Assalamu alaikum. Well, that brings us to the end of this morning's broadcast. That was Abdullah Griffith, General Director of Friends of Mizan, with the launch of Friends of Mizan chapter in South Africa, headed by Judge Siraj Desai, who is now the national chairperson of Friends of Mizan in South Africa. And with that, I'm going to be signing off. Once again, an absolute pleasure being in your company this morning. From all of us here at Salam Media, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
This Juz a Day recitation is brought to you by
Freedom Stationery, education for the nation. For the Isali Thawab of Marhum Ismail and Zubayda Muhammad of Azadville.
By Unity Food Products, manufacturers of Helios Pure Sunflower Oil and Helios Margarines and Spreads, that is approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
And for the Isali Thawab of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ibrahim Mangal, and all Marhumin.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
فمن أظلم ممن كذب على الله وكذب بالصدق إذ جاءه أليس في جهنم مثوى للكافرين والذي جاء بالصدق وصدق به أولئك هم المتقون لهم ما يشاءون عند ربهم ذلك جزاء المحسنين ليكفر الله عنهم أسوأ الذي عملوا ويجزيهم أجرهم بأحسن الذي كانوا يعملون أليس الله بكاف عبده ويخوفونك بالذين من دونه ومن يضلل الله فما له من هاد ومن يهد الله فما له من مضل أليس الله بعزيز ذي انتقام ولئن سألتهم من خلق السماوات والأرض ليقولن الله قل أفرأيتم ما تدعون من دون الله إن أرادني الله بضر هل هن كاشفات ضره أو أرادني برحمة هل هن